Hey all, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of the BANAUS W10. This is a GPS smartwatch that sells for $60, so it's fairly affordable and competes with the likes of the Xiaomi Amazfit Bip, the iWantFit P1C, so lightweight running watches that are meant for sports, but they're not as advanced as a full Android Wear or Galaxy Watch, and it's also a fraction of the price. It does have, again, a dedicated GPS chip which can track your location on a map when you're running outdoors, independent of your smartphone, which is pretty convenient. There's a quote of the day on top that says, "I love you not because of who you are, but because of who I am when I'm with you." There is a microfiber cleaning cloth on the very top, and then we just have the watch underneath. It also has a green and kind of neon color. Definitely a very sporty look as opposed to something more professional, which would have like a leather strap. So in here we also have the charging cable, which is using these magnetic pogo contacts, and then just the user manual, which is printed in full color, tells you how to change the watch interface, and there's also a QR code that you can scan here to download the app for Android and for iOS. So taking a quick look at the design of the watch next, there's a screen protector that we can just peel off, and it does have a 2.5D glass. So if we point it at the light, you can see how it kind of catches and reflects, making the swiping action feel a bit more seamless. Now, my first impression is that it's extremely lightweight. It's actually slimmer and lighter than even the iWantFit P1C. So if we do a quick size comparison here, you can see how the W10 here, ever so slightly slimmer. Dimensions on the front are actually a little bit larger compared to the Xiaomi Amazfit Bip. You can tell that the front is also a bit larger, but the side here is about the same in terms of thickness. And then just like the iWantFit and Xiaomi, it is using a plastic polycarbonate shell as opposed to aluminum. Kind of has a synthetic leather texture to the plastic underneath here, so it retains a lightweight nature. There's the charging contact points, the optical heart rate sensor, fatigue sensor, and there's also the company's logo. The bands themselves don't have a release mechanism, so you can't actually switch out the watch straps on this model. With that being said, you can tell that the silicone here is fairly durable, has many different sizes and adjustments, and overall I think the design is simple but fairly straightforward. There are no additional crown keys or buttons on the side, so the capacitive button on the front here wakes up the watch, and if it's turned off, you can hold on it for 3 seconds to turn it on. Taking a closer look at the interface, so from this main screen we have the time, battery status, latest heart rate reading, temperature, and the date. Tapping on it once, we can take a look at number of steps. The important thing here is it's not fully touch sensitive, so the display itself doesn't actually interact to touch. It's only this one point down below. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, but let's say I want to take a look at more details for steps. I can hold for a few seconds longer to enter this menu, taking a look at calories burned and distance walked. Next tab over is just for temperature for the day, so it will automatically sync that over from the phone. Next one over is for messages. It shows push notifications, whether that's emails, whether that's from social media, and you can control all of that using the companion app. Under sports, we can turn on the GPS mode if you're running or cycling outdoors. You can do a walk, you can also do a run, we can do a cycling, there's also a hiking, there is what looks like table tennis, soccer, and then just going back. So the number of sports definitely limited compared to, say, Android Wear, but at least the main ones are found here. So let's say we want to do a timed run. I can tap on this for a few seconds. It does have a vibration motor, so it can alert you of notifications, and the first few seconds it takes to try and lock in the GPS signal. Now, it takes a little bit longer in my testing compared to the Amazfit Bip to lock in, but it usually does that within a minute or so as long as you're outdoors. Indoors, it definitely struggles a bit more, but I can skip this if I want to by holding for a few seconds longer and just automatically begin if I don't want GPS. It will tell you your continuous heart rate when you're doing that session, the calories you've burned and distance you've walked, as well as number of steps. For a stopwatch, it's pretty simple. Just is a simple clock that you can begin by tapping on the key here once, tap on it again to pause, and long hold essentially to return back. So that's just a very basic app. And we also have a compass on here. So that is a pretty neat feature, just like on the Amazfit Bip, that you can use to see your direction. Under function, we have additional features. For example, we can use the watch as a remote control for your music. We can also use it as a selfie remote for taking images on your phone once it's connected using Bluetooth. And you can also change the watch face. I can long hold for a few seconds. So there's more of a digital style showing you your fitness stats. We also have one with a wallpaper in the background. This one here is kind of analog in style, reminds me of a radio. And there's also a true analog round watch face, you can see the display here is actually really good. So as far as the contrast is concerned, it really is an IPS panel with very inky blacks. It almost reminds me of a AMOLED display sometimes because of how good the contrast is. So the background really just fades in if it is trying to display a darker image, as you can see here. It looks very convincing. Although it doesn't get as bright as maybe some of its competitors, and because it isn't using a transflective screen like the Amazfit Bip, if you are outdoors in direct sunlight and there's a lot of sunlight glaring down, it can still be a little bit more difficult to see. But you can adjust the brightness as well over here. So right now we are at 3. I can change it up to 4, and 5 is the maximum brightness, as you can see there. It's also very good in terms of battery life. Even with some GPS tracking and Bluetooth syncing in between, it can still easily get me through a full week of use, and sometimes I still have about 20% of battery left over. So the battery life is almost as good as the Amazfit Bip. It's definitely one of the longest ones I've seen out of a super lightweight tracker, which is very much impressive. Let's take a closer look at the app next. The app is called Hi Move, and it works pretty well. The only concern I had while using it was sometimes the syncing for Bluetooth takes a little longer than I'm used to. The main dashboard gives us number of steps we walked today, and it will turn all the way around if you've completed your daily goal. We can also take a look at, down below here, number of steps, our average heart rate for the day, calories burned, and distance walked. We can also slide over here to take a look at sleep information, such as light versus deep sleep versus awake. They're pretty simple and straightforward. So we can also tap on sport to take a look at the sessions we've logged on the watch. They'll be displayed up here. So the last cycling we did was over 31 kilometers, and if I want to learn more about this, I can just tap on here and it will show me the entire route on the map, as you can see here, and all that information is captured by the watch since I left the phone at home actually. So it really is a functioning GPS chipset that is pretty accurate when I compared it with the Amazfit Bip earlier in terms of the path that it drew. So you can take a look at that line here, your average pace, calories burned, and time, and there's also other bars here such as additional details. We also have the chart here to take a look at that entire heart rate session, as well as the upper, lower limits. We can also take a look at our pace information, so when we were most active during the entire session. So going back here, there's also additional data here, so that tells you the heart rate, as well as steps and calories and distance, as well as sleep for the entire day, which we can also categorize by week. As you can see here, we can also change that into month and year if I want to have it at a larger granularity. Very easy to understand, even though it doesn't give you more intelligent statistics, such as recommending you to get more sleep or saying that your heart rate has reached an upper limit. It doesn't actually detect that and push notifications to you, so you have to monitor it yourself, but the graphs themselves are very easy to understand. Under settings is where we can take a look at the battery status remaining. We can see if there's a new firmware update. We can change our goal settings for number of steps. So that's pretty much it for our review of the W10 GPS running sports watch. I actually think this is a really strong value for the price. Really just goes to show that you don't have to spend an arm or a leg to get a quality smartwatch these days, especially if you need one with some basic functionality and GPS tracking. I think this thing more than suffices. It has good construction quality, it has a pretty accurate GPS and heart rate tracking capabilities, as well as a really lightweight form factor and long-lasting battery life. So you can find out more details in the links down below if interested, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the W10 GPS Smart Running Watch.